Action, please.
Hi, welcome back. It's Hal. We're here in the Box Clever rehearsal room. Today we've been doing some movement work with our esteemed movement director Richard. In our production of Jekyll Hyde, there's some pretty wild, wonderful, experimental movement. So Richard, how have we gone about creating that kind of work?
So in terms of how I like to operate in rehearsal rooms and my role as a movement director, it's important that first of all we build up some company morale and some teamwork. So ball games, really useful. If you don't have a ball available, lots of drama games, I'm sure you've done those in your classes before as well. Just to get everybody working together, thinking about being part of an ensemble as a team. Having a game is good because there's an objective to that, so everybody's trying to achieve the thing together. And then just into a simple, what we did this morning was a simple mobilization exercise, which is just about getting your body ready to move, just using those parts of the body that we haven't used in a long time, possibly if we've just been sitting around reading the play, and it's a good way to start. And then we started off thinking about ways in which we can help each other leave the ground, which sounds like, eventually we're going to be doing maybe some big lifts, but just starting about sharing weight and a couple of exercises, which is just about making contact with our partner, sharing weight, and how we can lean into them and allow the team to absorb that weight and put us back on our feet. After a while of doing that, we introduced providing some ledges, so some ledges on the lower body, so if one person leans back and offers a leg, then we can press into that leg and we can get somebody off the ground. So after an hour or so of just very carefully, slowly working through this stuff, with confidence we were actually able to then start lifting each other smoothly, with success, with confidence. And then we went on into doing bigger lifts, some vaulting, some jumping and some catching. Again, working very carefully throughout the method. So I like to work in a system that allows confidence in the room. So you always want to be setting small, tiny goals and achieving those. So rather than thinking we've got a big, impossible task that we need to achieve, we can do those things a little bit at a time, and a room full of actors think, I can do that, yeah, that's okay, it's something that is possible. And that builds our confidence. And then after we'd learned some skills, we started to look at some scenes in the show and applying maybe the lifts, or looking at how we might tackle some of the more violent moments, and piecing those together, constantly checking in with what's the story that we're looking to tell and whether or not we're hitting those beats. So yeah, that's been the little process of the morning. Much to do still. Mm-hmm. But anybody want to say anything else about what they found in the process this morning?
Jacob, what's it like putting that all into practice?
Yeah, it's been really helpful building it up. I think it's like you were saying, rather than jumping straight to the lifts or something like that, we've built it up person by person. So we started doing it where there was 3 people catching someone in the air, and then we moved that down to 2, and then eventually moved that down to 1. If we were to just jump to 1, you'd be terrified to do it. You wouldn't have both of you wouldn't have the trust, but we built up that trust, and it's really nice building up that trust as a company, knowing that you've got each other's backs and nothing's going to go wrong. And it's funny actually that the more, with these sort of vaults that we're doing, the more energy and effort you put into it, the actually easier it is. If you go into it timid or sort of shy, you end up tensing up, or elbows are in the wrong place, you end up hurting each other. So sometimes you just need to go full throttle, trust in the other actor.
Yeah, it's an interesting word, full throttle, high octane. This show is pretty energetic. You guys are going to be sweating, working hard. Coco, how did you find the movement work this morning, and what are you excited about tackling moving forward with this?
I think initially I found it a little bit difficult. It's more so just, I trust my cast members, of course, but it's having that trust to catch me. I think what I'm looking forward to most is once we've got the movement down to a T, just how smooth the transitions are going to be, and how movement can just really heighten certain elements of the play. I think I'm really excited to see what else we can do, how we can use our bodies, our breath, to really emphasize certain parts. So yeah, a lot to stay tuned for.
Yeah, and finally, Jack, there's some pretty shocking, violent moments in this story that we have to put on stage in an inventive way. You got a chance this morning to play Hyde and do, well, I don't want to have any spoilers, but there's a sort of shocking moment about 10 minutes in where Hyde meets someone in the street and, well, maybe doesn't treat him too nicely. What was it like stepping into Hyde's body there for a moment and acting out that particularly violent moment?
It was great. It was really nice to act out the super violent moments, but they only work. You know, one individual can create a moment, but it's everybody's reactions that makes the moment viable. And so a super moment of violence, as long as we are all, I mean, what we're working on today with like trust and comfort, I mean, we've got a great bonus position here where we're going to tour together, so we'll be working together a lot. But if you're an actor working in an acting class, making sure that everybody is on the same page of what they're comfortable with and what they're ready to do, that means that when we go into the really kind of quite shocking moments, everybody is aware and everyone is ready to take it on board and react accordingly.
And what was it like playing Hyde in those moments? The famously violent, the upside down version of ourselves, where everything's more base and more evil. What was it like stepping into that?
Yeah, stepping into Hyde in those moments. It can't just be mindless violence. So in these early days, it's day 4 at the minute, I'm trying to navigate, okay, Hyde isn't just a mindless animal. He has thoughts and feelings and convictions with the things that he's doing. So when he commits a moment of violence, okay, why has he done that? What has brought him to that moment? And you have to see each of those triggers in his brain before he reaches that. And so for me, as Hyde, I have to work myself up and go, okay, is it because I'm anxious, or I'm nervous, or I'm angry, or I'm jealous, or there's another reason that I'm full of hate that I'm getting from Coco and Jacob that drives me to that position. And then if that first part of that work is done, then it makes the actual conviction much easier.
And finally, just ask Richard one more question. In this show, there are a number of kind of memorable pieces of movement, and often I think in a show, you really want those big theatrical moments. What's the key to creating something that really burns into the imagination of the audience when you're creating those incredible movement moments?
Oh, you asked me a really difficult question. It's like, I sort of don't know. I suppose a thing that I remember when I was training as an actor, and even before that when I was at college and we're looking at theatre studies, a director said to me that, you know, what 80%, 90% of what people remember from a piece of theatre is how it looked. They might not necessarily remember all the lines. They'll have an idea of what the music was like, but they won't really remember it. If it's a musical, they might not remember all the songs, but they might. They remember the visual. They remember possibly how the set looked, or that there was a big sequence where there was crazy people running around, or a big lift, or something like that. They'll click onto the visual, and I suppose it can be quite tempting as a movement director to get bogged down, or to stress yourself thinking I have to make something spectacular, and that can be a pressure and a temptation. But I think fundamentally my role is to help the director to unlock what the story is and what's happening in that particular moment of the story. So you're always going back to the script and going, why is this piece of movement here? Why is the writer inserted this moment that has no words, maybe, or maybe there are words, but there's something happening underneath that text as well. What is the gap that we need to bridge with this movement? So we need to take the audience on a journey from A to B, and by the time we get to B, they need to have this reaction or this understanding, or they need to have seen this exchange happen between two characters. And always these things are different. And fundamentally, the story is the most important thing. That's what drives the movement. So I think that as long as you're answering those questions, or you're taking the audience on that journey, when it works, it becomes spectacular or memorable or effective as a byproduct. If you aim for the spectacular or the kind of amazing, but don't fill it with the story, sometimes the audience can miss it and be a bit confused about what was going on there, and you've sort of failed in your job. So that's really how I try and approach it.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. I think spectacle for spectacle's sake is not really what we're going for, right? With the story, which is full of these visceral, powerful moments, we need to serve that story. And I think that's a good note for us moving into the afternoon, isn't it? Just to keep the story right at the forefront of our minds as we're creating these moments for you. And obviously, you're a very smart audience. You'll smell it out if we're just doing spectacle for spectacle's sake. You want to be left with those images, but they're powered by that incredible Stevenson novella, Jekyll Hyde. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow here on Box Clever TV. Nice one. Cheers.